This is the United Uprising channel. Welcome to today's show. I had just covered this topic on my other channel, A Call for Vengeance. Make sure you subscribe to it now. It is linked below and watch that video because there's an update on the Baphomet statue at the Iowa State Capitol building. Now, in that video, I had said, all I want for Christmas, aka Saturnalia, is for Baphomet's nuts to be roasting on an open fire. Well, it looks like Baphomet's head is what's indeed roasting on an open fire. Now, I don't condone these types of things because my mindset is more so that this shouldn't even exist in our society. There shouldn't be rights for Satanists. There should not be rights for witches because I know what they really do. Most of us know through reading and discovering all these things that really go on with secret societies, etc. They shouldn't exist in our society, and in all societies previously, they weren't allowed to exist because of the things and the chaos that they cause and create. But this way, this government is set up, and this constitution, I should say, is set up. They're supposedly protected under religious freedom. But what happened at the Iowa State Capitol is that somebody went and decapitated the Baphomet. Now, you could look at this from a lot of different perspectives. Of course, this won't shine good light on Christianity for a lot of the weak-minded people out there, but at the same time, we could obviously see how this is another thing that caused gaslighting. I've mentioned in the past, and I even mentioned in that previous video that I did, which is linked below, that all of this stuff has been happening over and over again. This is not the first time. They're acting like this is the first time that we're seeing a Baphomet, a satanic temple statue at town hall or a Capitol building, etc. The same thing happened even 6 years ago where we actually had the opposite, where Satanists ran over a statue of the Ten Commandments. They do this back and forth. It's about canceling each other out. It's about the elimination of our rights. It's about the elimination of free speech. It's about the elimination of religious protection and religious freedom. Because again, in a communist government, which is what this is, which is what Satan's government is, a communist government, everything is one. It's one and state-run. There will be no religious freedoms anymore. And the only way you can do that is by convincing people that these are bad things, that religion causes this, causes that. One person, if we're going to have rights, these people deserve rights, et cetera, et cetera. And just like we see with free speech, everybody cancels each other out. So this story is that Ron DeSantis of Florida has even come out and said that this was wonderful, that he'll pay for the fees of the man, his lawyer fees of the man who went and beheaded the statue. Here is the story about the beheading of the Baphomet statue.
A satanic holiday display at the state capitol has been vandalized after receiving pushback from religious Iowans and the governor. This is the shrine earlier this week before it was vandalized. Capitol Police say the statue of Baphomet, the goat-headed figure that you see in these videos, was damaged earlier today. They add a Mississippi man has been charged with fourth-degree criminal mischief for the incident. Governor Kim Reynolds has called for residents to pray for the state in response to the display.
Display from the Satanic Temple of Iowa at the State House has been damaged. The Satanic Temple posted this video to Facebook today. It says investigators told them their statue was damaged beyond repair. The display has been up for most of the month. The Satanic Temple of Iowa intended to keep it up until tomorrow. Now, this display has drawn a lot of controversy. The governor even called for people to pray over the Capitol in response to it. This display is permitted to be at the State House because of religious freedom.
It's the display at the center of a free speech debate in America. The Satanic Temple of Iowa putting up this scene in the Iowa State Capitol. Built with the state's permission, it includes a statue of a goat-headed figure, along with the 7 tenets of the group's beliefs. But not everyone is feeling blessed by its appearance. Iowa's Governor Kim Reynolds calling it absolutely objectionable. Another Iowa lawmaker calling it disgusting. And tonight, outrage hits a boiling point with the display vandalized and the goat-headed figure beheaded. I want to bring in the co-founder and spokesperson of the Satanic Temple, Lucian Greaves. Lucian, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with what happened to that display. How did you feel when you saw the damage?
Well, they had prayer rallies. They protested us. They denigrated the local government for following the law and opening the public forum to all viewers. and they still felt the need to tear down the statue or the display that was put up by our Iowa congregation. I think it was a real act of cowardice. It's cowardice dressed up as heroism. It's acting like they're standing up for us when, in fact, when politicians do this, and my understanding is that this is somebody running for public office, they're really yielding to the whims of an uncomprehending, undemocratic mob, and they don't have the spine to stand up for the values that they swore to uphold when they took an oath of office. And I think we saw similar from Ron DeSantis in his comments about us recently.
I'll get to Ron DeSantis' comments in just a moment, but the governor of Iowa, Kim Reynolds, she said earlier this week that she thought that the display was absolutely objectionable, but that in a free society, the best response to objectionable speech is more speech. She went on to encourage people to join her in praying over the Capitol. What did you think of that response? Were you surprised that it came from her?
I'm surprised that it did come from any of the politicians right now, and it's really courageous to take a stance for free speech at this point on either the left or the right. And there's a certain point at which we need some adults in the room to tell people what our liberal democratic values are, what their value is, why we uphold them, and what they're good for, and they need to stand up for these types of values, or we're going to further degenerate in our polarism towards autocracy.
You were talking about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis earlier. He is criticizing an IRS rule that was put in place under the Trump administration that designated the Satanic Temple as a tax-exempt church. Is he right, though? Fundamentally, did the Trump administration's actions actually give your organization a legal standing to have this display?
No, we have a system in place where we have a system of checks and balances, and we have static institutions like the IRS that work under a certain set of rules. And they're supposed to act neutrally in regard to viewpoint and just follow rote practices in which, if we fall within the parameters of the law, our rights will be respected the same as anybody else's. We don't want to yield some kind of power to the government to begin picking and choosing between religious groups. People might hate us and people might want to exclude us, but that simply opens the door to more sectarian battles, and it certainly won't stop there. Our IRS tax-exempt application certainly never came across Trump's desk. Trump wouldn't have comprehended it if he had seen it, and I think DeSantis knows that. It's just another display of cowardice from a politician who wants to play ignorant, I think. I think he knows better. I would be happy to debate him at any point. But I do think he is being a pathetic little coward when he tries to use us as a ploy to appeal to a mob of people who just don't understand what somebody like him very well should understand and should convey to the public instead of riling up fears and animosity between different people.
So, of course, you have CNN, you have all the mainstream media covering it because, of course, they're going to play victims. The Satanists are going to play victims. They're using this as obviously a gaslighting tactic. And, of course, all Christians out there should be offended and disgusted by the fact that we have these types of statues there. But instead, what you really hear is that Christians are saying, well, this is Jesus' birthday. They aren't even aware of, the pagan traditions, which really Christmas goes even deeper than that. They aren't even aware of Saturnalia, etc. They actually, literally believe that Jesus was born on Christmas when there's no proof that he was born on Christmas. In fact, the Bible almost contradicts it to a point where scholars out there, if you want to call them scholars, people have identified specific dates as the real dates of Jesus' birth, including that day on the 11th of September that a lot of people believe truly is the day. Other people actually believe that it's the 1st of April, but it's pretty clear that his actual birth was either in the spring or the fall time period based on what is messaged in the Bible. But they picked Christmas because they cloaked it in Saturnalia, which goes back to Constantine. So Christians are mad about that, right? But this just kind of summarizes where we are as a society because, again, Satanists shouldn't be allowed to exist. Okay, so in other words, when you hear me say that, you're like, well, I don't really agree with that. They should have a right to, okay. Well, I'm not talking about your, person who thinks they're a Satanist that paints themselves with black lipstick and thinks they're Marilyn Manson, thinks they're being edgy and cool. The whole concept of Satanism shouldn't be allowed to exist because if we actually look at Satanism and what all the teachings of Satanism actually talk about, not the fake ones that the Satanic Temple presents and says, oh, this is what we really do. Well, if they were out there telling people they committed sacrifice and did this stuff with children, do you think they'd be allowed to exist? Do you think they'd be allowed to walk the earth? Of course not. The people would take care of it, because that's what's happened in the history of humanity, is that people knew what the Satanists and the witches were doing, so they took care of them. Well, now the society's so stupid, they come out there, they go, we don't really worship the devil. And everybody goes, yeah, they don't worship the devil. They say they didn't worship the devil. All right. And they couldn't lie. Why would they ever lie about that? Right? What do you think? They're going to openly admit to human sacrifice and all this other stuff? And again, I'm not saying the people in the Satanic Temple necessarily do that. I mean, the higher ups certainly do. Mr. Pigman Eye and them certainly are involved in those things. Obviously, I'm talking about the people who just sign up for this stuff and show up at the events, you know, holding flags and dressing up in makeup, who think that they're part of some type of cosplay. And they go, oh, I'm a Satanist, you know. If they actually saw what these people really did, their heads would explode. They would start cry in fear and go under their bed, okay? So let's take a look at the story here of what supposedly happened. And again, I had mentioned many times over the past that these types of events are set up for false flags. That's what they really are set up for, in addition to the other stuff I mentioned about removing freedoms. Because again, in a communist society, all things must crumble. All things. Everything that we know of as normal in our society has to come down and crash. The Constitution will no longer exist. The Bill of Rights will no longer exist. The Supreme Court will no longer exist. None of it doesn't exist in a communist society, in a new world order. So they're convincing you that these structures and these things are corrupt and bad. When they worked good when corrupt people weren't in charge and weren't in power, when our officials were actually elected by us. They aren't elected by us anymore. They're selected, and now they're sabotaging the system because these are all satanic sellouts who are parts of secret society. So Michael Cassidy, no relation to George Glass, for those of you that get that reference. So Michael Cassidy is the man who's supposedly he's a 35-year-old Navy Reserve instructor pilot and self-styled America First conservative, has been charged with fourth-degree criminal mischief after allegedly tearing down and beheading a Satanist statue that was on display at the Iowa State Capitol. The display made by the Satanic Temple, Iowa, who said they were exercising their rights to religious freedom, had already attracted significant controversy, with a Christian group holding a prayer group on Wednesday in protest. It featured a human-sized statue of Baphomet, a horned demon adopted from worship by some Satanists. I love it. They just, I'm reading Newsweek and the word Baphomet is in Newsweek. My head is like, you know, because when I started this stuff, I mean, nobody even knew what a Baphomet was. They're like, what, that goat thing? The Baphomet is just becoming like a normal term in people's homes now. But the Newsweek's talking about the Baphomet, who's more than just a horned demon adopted by worship, for worship by some Satanists. With a row of lit candles placed in front, Republican Governor Kim Reynolds urged Iowa residents to join her in praying over the Capitol in response to the absolutely objectionable display being installed. After Thursday's incident, a crowdfunding campaign was launched by Cassidy's legal fund, which raised $20,000 before being suspended upon hitting its target. Prominent donors included conservative campaign group Turning Point USA and the Daily Wire, and Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire, who gave $10,000 and $1,000 respectively. Okay, so we can see where this is headed, right? Now, everybody who watches my channel probably see me in the past smashing my YouTube channel. I even had a video up at one point of smashing a Baphomet statue that I had seen at a store, decided to purchase so I could smash it, put it on YouTube. Yeah, you know, back in the good old days. Now that would be considered hate speech, but obviously I'm for you know what I mean? I believe in private property, but not in the standpoint of this, okay? I don't believe in this stuff. Because I don't believe Satanists should have rights because of what they believe. Not because I'm a Christian, because of what they believe and what they actually practice. Okay? Christians aren't doing things that put people in harm's way by practicing their faith by reading the Bible. Now, they've convinced people that we are because of stuff in the Bible that talks about people who ride the Hershey Highway. Okay? But in reality, the worship and the rituals that Satanists partake in involve this red liquid. Well, where are they going to get the red liquid from? And where are they going to get that flesh from without actually doing something to get that flesh? So one of the ways they've been able to do that over the years is by this Planned Parenthood thing, because they're the ones who actually get access to those things that, you know, not things, but I don't want to say the word because the algorithm, those children that have that happen to them, they actually get access to it so that they could use them in their rituals. That's how it works, right? So back to the story here. Obviously, if you hear me, I obviously agree with it, but you have to understand that when the Daily Wire, these other things, they're gaslighting people for a reason. It's not just about division. It's about the destruction of our rights. That's why they're trying to get into after-school Satan programs into schools. why they're trying to get in there is to get anything with Christianity removed. Eventually, it gets to a point where Christians are going to be looked at as the bully, just like this story. Everyone's like, oh, see, it's the Christians. The Satanists just put up a statue. It was peaceful, etc. If they actually knew what these people practiced, they wouldn't think it was peaceful. But that's the narrative, right? They put up a statue. They're nice. Christians can't even allow them to have a statue up. They have to vandalize it, right? That's the narrative we've continued to hear, right? People are at public libraries, right? Dressing up in the opposite gender, reading to children. Christians protest outside. They're hateful. They're bigots. Leave them alone. This is the perception that they're building in the minds of the hive mind, which is the majority of our society. They're turning people on Christianity. So this story works perfect for them. They could do these stories every year and have them be false flag type events. I mean, this doesn't qualify as a false flag because it's a minuscule type of thing. I'm sure it organically really happened. They'll probably say the guy did it because people like me on the internet were bringing attention to it and saying it's disgusting and shouldn't be allowed. And they just automatically would say that we told them to go commit the crime. I'm surprised we're not all getting arrested, or me specifically. They're having a video even talking about it because they say, well, the tone of his voice made it sound like he was saying that people should go and do that. His video is Baphomet's nuts roasted on an open fire, so he was telling people to go do it, and they went and did it. No, that's not really what happened, but in today's society, it's all you need to tell people, and they would say, arrest that man for free speech. That's a crime. He's giving people ideas. Meanwhile, they're all under full-on hypnosis. Every idea they have isn't even their own idea. It's coming right from the government and putting it right in their hive mind. So back to the story. So he's getting a lot of money from charities to defend him in court. Of course, DeSantis came out and said that he'll pay for it himself out of pocket. This guy was born in Annapolis, Maryland, raised in Arlington, Virginia. According to his campaign website, he decided to join the military while in high school in response to the attacks on the 11th day of September, which killed the father of one of his classmates. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's some type of an agent, probably. In 2009, I said earlier, I'm like, probably something that could organically actually happen because people are angry. I mean, everybody's getting gaslit left and right. People should be angry and are angry because of what they perceive is going on when they're actually just being played on both sides. But this could very well be, I mean, now he's got all the makings here, not of a varsity athlete, but he's got all the makings here of a potential agent in place, I should say. So, yes, he's got the military background. They bring in the 11th of September. So they're obviously building a stereotype in people's minds, which is what they're doing, ideally, is they're creating a stereotype, right? You have the one side, the liberal side we all talk about and see, right, with the glasses, how they dress, how they act, the way they look. You could identify them. They're doing the same thing with the other side, military, armed, etc. This guy here, he describes himself as a Christian conservative who loves our nation and is committed to preserving the blessings of liberty bestowed upon us by our founding generation. So that's one of the brainwashing things they've done as well, is linking this whole Christian nationalist extremist type of thing, right? I mean, I never really got it. I get it now because, I mean, obviously I'm very anti-communism. I'm not interested in being a slave, and I never will be. But, I'm not one of those Christians who's like, I'm America first, liberty and all this stuff. I'm Jesus first, and only Jesus. I don't have an allegiance to a flag, okay? I care about human beings, okay, around the world. So there's everyone's like, you're only supposed to care about America. They want that mindset. Like, Christians only care about themselves and America and the red, white, and blue. Well, Christians should care about Christ first and his message. But this is part of the stereotyping that they're doing. So after Thursday's incidents, this guy, Cassidy, shared a Bible verse on Twitter, posting 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. He later thanked donors in his crowdfunding campaign. Newsweek has reached out to Cassidy for comment online, but is on his official website, as well as the Satanic Temple Iowa by email. So the story's out there for people to note. Obviously, the Satanic Temple is going out there and doing what they do every time. Going on CNN, going out in the mainstream media, doing what? Portraying themselves as victims, portraying themselves as well-spoken, luring, and these types of things actually make people want to join subconsciously without realizing it. It makes them want to join and be a part of, or at least sympathize and lean towards favoring the Satanists over the Christians. Because they come out, they act this way, and they're like, oh, he sounded well-spoken. He didn't sound angry and upset. Wow, these Satanists are a lot better people than the Christians are. This is exactly what they want. So this stuff all works perfectly into it. And again, I'm not saying I couldn't care less about, you want to talk about the satanic Baphomet statue there. People are upset because it's next to a Christmas tree. They don't even realize that these buildings that the statues are in, these they're filled with all satanic crap. The obelisks, the Freemasonic tiles, right? I'm sure there's all-seeing eyes inside the building. All these Capitol buildings are. So the building themselves are shrines to Satan, which I've covered over and over again. They're all shrines to Satan. So for anyone to actually be upset that what's the difference? I mean, really, what's the difference? But that's how gaslighting works. They don't care about the other stuff. They're like, that's a sacred American tradition. They don't even realize the tradition of America in general, the Illuminati and Freemasons, the origins of it. And of course, all the presidents in the past who they would defend, they don't realize they're 33rd degree Masons. The same person who set up that treaty over in the Middle East in that land of bagels, right? Truman, all these guys. I mean, it's incredible. But anyway, folks, I've been covering these people for years. Okay, Satan is the author of confusion, the father of lies. So are his minions. These people lie and present themselves one way. And these types of events happen by design because it continues to light a fire under people. People get all fired up about the statue. They don't even realize that everybody in government, all of them worship the devil. All these buildings, these Capitol buildings that these supposed statues and satanic monuments are going inside of, don't even realize the monument they're defending, the Christmas tree, has nothing to do with Jesus. It's pagan, right? They don't want to hear that. They won't listen to that. Then you talk about the building and the structure of the building, and all the Masonic stuff like the obelisk. They don't want to hear that either because it's too much for them to comprehend. But when they see the goat, yeah, let's go tear it down. How about we just, how about we really just start exposing who Satanists really are, why Satanists have never been allowed to exist in society. Same like another group of people who were run out of every town, every country that they were in because they were obviously doing the same thing, just with a different name. As the Satanists were, the same type of sacrifice, etc. Libel, I should use the word libel for anyone out there, the red stuff libel. If anyone wants to look into it, the video is available on the website, uprisingrevival.com. And again, nothing new under the sun, right? I mean, these people just continually go out there, they do these types of things, and every time they put their satanic footprint somewhere, whether it's at a school or at a Capitol building, the Christians are always the ones who are looked like as the villain. They're building this up in people's minds to turn on Christians. Obviously, the conservative alt-right media makes it even worse, and that's what their job is too. That's what Matt Walsh's job is. That's what the Daily Wire's job is. They're presenting themselves as Christian conservative. Meanwhile, they're producing cartoons, Snow White magic stuff for their audience out there. Nobody gets the overall concept here of what's going on. And the ones that do, they get silenced. They get silenced from actually waking people up to the deeper deception that's going on here. They want to keep you in that hive mind, left and right. And that's what it's all about. Thank you for being here, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Sorry, Baphomet, that it wasn't your nuts roasting on an open fire. It was only your head. But soon enough, when the trumpets sound and the king returns, it'll be more than your head roasting on an open fire, Baff. Thanks again for being here, everybody. Hope you're all well. God bless you as always, and your families.